Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison, and let me just say this. What is Her Truth Unraveling, you ask? And it's conversations with women in our midlife, sharing our experiences, but most importantly, sharing our journey. The journey of what the heck are we doing now? Where are we? What are we doing? What has shifted in our lives? What's changed? What is the same? The things that our mothers didn't tell us, our grandmothers didn't tell us, the things that just weren't in conversation as we were growing up. And so now we've found each other and we're just talking about all the things. And today I have an incredible guest, Wendy. I met through an incredible summit experience, convention experience. I can't remember, I just know it was an amazing experience of 48 speakers over 3 days. We happened to be in a small group together, and her journey is one that's not just metaphorical or spiritual, but it's physical. And I think it's important to talk about this because you don't, in our generation, you don't find most people over 40 just going, you know what? I think I'm going to leave everything behind and explore the world, run a business, and do all the things that we think at this age is about settling down, right? That's usually what we've heard. That's what we know of, but not for Wendy. Not Wendy. She is the complete opposite of all we think is settling down. So, without further ado, but before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us, for sharing us, for commenting, for reviewing this podcast. Because of you, we get to spread word and hang out with each other. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I was happy thinking only 2 of my friends was listening to this, and now it's so much more than that, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here. This is such a wonderful platform, as you say, for telling it like it is.
Yes. And you are just the most fascinating tell it like it is storyteller because really honestly, one of the things that got me so excited was most of the time, here's the 2 things that are happening to us once we've hit 40 and over. It's like, oh, we should have figured out life by now and it's time to settle down, which I was not experiencing. So I'm thinking I cannot be the only one feeling this way. And then I meet you and you're like, oh, by the way, I up and left my hometown and moved to another country. She didn't just move to another town. She moved to another country. And right before we got on, I'm talking and she's like, oh yeah, couple months, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. Then I'm just going to go across the world to another location. I just need to know, first of all, before we go into that, who is Wendy and what do you do?
Existential question, that one. Right, who am I? Well, First and foremost, female, mature in age, stuff that. I'm older, I'm not mature, okay? So that will give you some idea of a little bit about me, my character. I am a Brit, as you can hear from the accent. Migrated from the UK when I was 48 to Australia, spent 10 years there. I'm now on an adventure, which I'm sure we'll come on to a little bit more as we talk. What I do, I help those shy entrepreneurs who go, yeah, I do actually have something worth saying, to get it down on paper, going from promise to page. They've promised themselves that they're going to write it, and we get it down on the page. And then we take it through the publishing process. And then I also then help them to go from page to stage, because it's that public speaking thing, you know, the visibility.
It's the number one fear of humans is public speaking.
Exactly. So that's why I take them through the entire journey, from the promise in their head that I'm going to do this, through the page, to publishing, to talking about it.
Well, I mean, I can hear the audience going, oh my gosh, that's me, right? And especially in this midlife space, I feel like we have so much more to say now than ever before. But tell us why that? Of all the professions in the world, right? Of all the things you could do, why speech? Why speaking? Why our voice? Why from page to stage? Why that?
Okay. Well, come with me on a little bit of a journey. When I was 2, I had a bit of an abandonment experience. And ladies, we of a certain age, put it this way, if you're a mother, how would you feel to be separated from your little 2-year-old in a hospital scenario? You probably wouldn't be very happy, because I can guarantee you that the little person on the other side of the doors who's shouting and screaming for mummy is not happy. And that was me. Age 2, back in the 60s, hospitals were not a place where parents were welcome, let alone to stay overnight with their children. I mean, look at it getting away. They'd only make things worse. So that was my earliest memory, which was buried, very definitely buried. And I didn't even realize it for over 50 years. But at that point, because my mother didn't come to me when I called for her, she couldn't. I fully understand that now as an adult, but that little 2-year-old made the decision, my voice doesn't matter. I don't matter. Now, that was the internal script I was running, and it coloured pretty much my life experience. So what did I decide to do as a profession? Speech pathology. My voice didn't matter, everybody else's did. I was going to make sure that nobody else would have that experience as I did on my watch. So my career for almost 30 years was as a speech pathologist, working with adults with intellectual disability and or autism. So again, a very niche group of people who found it very difficult to communicate. And that was where I focused my attention.
Wow. Talk about informing your future, right? Like this journey is, however, I also think now in my midlife, I feel like when we look at our past, it's like, oh, I mean, yeah, but it's also the calling. Because knowing you, Wendy, like you are the perfect person to help anyone, even veteran speakers, because I think there's a difference too between not just communicating words, but how to use your body and your true essence of who you are. You know, I think one of the biggest fears of why we don't speak on stage, I'm one of them, is because we don't want to be judged for our authentic self, right? Because somehow the authentic self sucks on stage. Like somehow it has to be all that type of thing. And our first few conversations made me feel so comfortable of like, okay, I can do that. Now, do they take that on TED though? Do they take that on? And then you started telling me like, actually, let me tell you about TED Talk. Because that is like the number one goal of most people that's the pinnacle of stage talk, right?
Yes.
Is TED. So I just feel like, I think it's been your calling. So now let's move on of when you were in this speech pathology space helping, I mean, humans that really have some sort of challenge in speech and speaking. What made you leave that to help us entrepreneurs write down our experiences and then get on stage? Like, what was that?
It wasn't a choice, I'll be honest. I was kind of pushed off the cliff. There was, I migrated from the UK to Australia to work as a speechie. And the company I worked for bless them. They paid for my sponsored visa. They paid for my sponsored, permanent residency, which I couldn't have done without them because I was 8 weeks past my 50th birthday. And I would have had to have had a shed load of money in the bank because, of course, after 50, you're going to be a drain on the health service. We'll leave that one to one side.
Never put those two and two together of why they wouldn't take you after that age. Okay.
Yep. So anyway, the company, as I said, I'm very, very grateful to them. They sponsored my PR and I had to work for them for 2 years as part of the process. There had been a change of management in this time. And the person who was now in charge was somebody who apparently I put her nose out of joint when I first arrived in the company. I asked questions. Why are we doing this? I was genuinely curious, but it didn't go down so well. So there was an opportunity for me to be exited, which they took. And whilst I took legal advice and I did have a genuine case, I thought, is it actually going to change anything about the way they function? And do I want to go back and work there now?
Yeah.
So that was where, and because Perth is a small city, it's known as the second most remote capital city in the world. You have to go to Perth on purpose. It's 5 hours by plane from the eastern states, from Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and all of that. So it really is a remote capital. Everybody talks. So if I wanted to get a speechy job in Perth, I wasn't going to get a reference from this company. There was going to be a gap in my service, and any potential employer was going to go, what's happened?
Yeah.
And even although I had a case for legal redress, you know that phrase, no smoke without fire?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was
I
a
was
moment
not-
of when the road splits
Exactly.
and you have to choose which road you take. So then you said it kind of landed on you by accident, but tell us that journey.
Well, after that, here I am, the reluctant entrepreneur. But the thing is, they released me from my position with 13 months still left to run on my 24-month visa with them. I couldn't go and work for anybody else because the tax would go to immigration. Oh, hello. Why?
Yeah.
There's the door. There's the door. Off you go. Deportation. I'm going. So for that 13 months, I had to head down, bum up, and keep quiet, not be visible at all. That's when I did my coaching qualification.
Hey, now we're seeing something else brewing.
So that was when that came about. And because, again, those internal scripts, the things you talk to yourself about, I had no experience, no role model of entrepreneurship. The only person I knew in our family who had a business was my uncle, who was an insurance agent. And he used to wander around puffing on his pipe going, got a lot of work to do, got a lot of work to do. I never saw him doing anything. That was my only role model, that business was hard work, and you talked about it being hard and didn't actually do anything.
Wow. So then you got to coaching, and what brought you to, because there's many, once you're in that space, right? There's so many avenues it can go. So you take your expertise and then you take what's needed out there and then you look at all of it. But what made you see that the challenge was putting their story on paper and then taking that story and getting it on stage? Like what led you to seeing that was a problem or that was a challenge or that was a missing link to entrepreneurs?
I kind of came for an ass about face, if you'll forgive the phrase. The page to stage was where I was most happy because I've been used to helping people to get on stages. And that, as you mentioned earlier, I was head speaker coach for TEDx, University of Western Australia for 5 years. They headhunted me. That felt good. We'll take your skills, thank you. So I was used to doing that part. I focused in on authors because one of those scripts again, one of my friends had signed up for a multi-author book and sadly had hit a mental health dive and couldn't fulfill the contract. So she said, Wendy, look, it's all paid for. I don't want any money out of it. Just go do it. I'm not an author. I'm not an author. I'm a speaker. I'm not an author. And she said, I don't care what you call yourself. Just do it. You've got 3,000 words. You can come up with 3,000 words, sort of Nike it.
Yeah.
So I did. And I talked about the day I found my husband dead.
Oh,
that's another story. And so in 20 minutes flat, I had the entire chapter written.
3,000 words. In 20 minutes?
Yes, it just came flowing out.
Wow. Wow.
Maybe I could class myself as an author. That book went to international bestseller. With a couple of colleagues, we curated a multi-author book as well. Part of that was taking the authors from page to stage. That was where From Page to Stage was born. Because there were the people in the book were so focused on writing the book. I mean, yes, but you've got to market it. You've got to talk about what you're doing on a stage. That was part of the book program. Only one person out of the 13 took me up on it.
Yeah, what is our challenge to step in? Because really, where I met you, Brad had lovingly pursued me to be on. He had been doing it for a couple of years and had asked me if I was interested, and I had no interest. And the challenge is I'm not. I think I don't know. You tell me. The challenge isn't that I'm afraid to speak, because that part is not like I'm comfortable speaking in public. Like, duh, I'm on a podcast, whole thing. I want it to be delivered well. And I think unless you've had somebody guide you through, actually, not just your friend saying, hey, will you come to my event and speak? That's different, right? Because there's 30 people and it's like, of course, and half of them but to actually make that decision to say, okay, I'm going to speak on stage, does that require a different version of a person that is sort of out of our realm of understanding? Or what do you think our challenge is with that? 'Cause that's what I think it is, but you probably know better than me because you've worked with a lot of speakers.
First thing when people go to me, I can't do the public speaking thing, is my question is, who's your role model?
Oh, that's a good one.
And a lot of the folks will go, I'm no Tony Robbins. Good. He does him. You do you. Because the perception is that public speaking has to be from a raised platform with a microphone in hand or...
Yes. And immediately you think like there's 5,000 people and it just freaks you out, right? So when my friend who has a little community of 30 people, it doesn't seem as threatening.
Right. But you see, the things, there are different skills required for different stages. This is a stage. We're doing a podcast. This is a stage.
Everybody that was a mic drop moment. Did you hear that? I would have never put that together.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is the thing. If entrepreneurs are really, is a good Scots word for you, 30, they're really scared. They don't want to talk to a group. And even getting to a networking meeting can be a bit...
Yes.
My question to them then is, can you do a one-on-one conversation with people? Yeah.
Yeah.
Class then. You're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody. Yes, there are a few people listening in. And that's where you bring it in terms of speaking to your audience as well as the host. That takes a little bit of coaching to get the most out of your podcast opportunities. However, as you've just beautifully demonstrated, you talk to your audience as well.
Yeah.
Audience, by the way, this bit's for you. I'm speaking specifically to you.
Right.
So there are ways that you can manage your podcast opportunities. But that is a different skill set, complementary, but different from the standing out live.
Yes. Now, but why is that as a business owner, right? We all know that's how we get more visibility. That's how we share what we do. This is how we impact the world. We want to tell our stories. We want to put it on paper. We want to get on stage. I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, and that's always at the baseline of their desire and how they want to put themselves out. But very few actually do it, because here's sort of the process. Like, it's got to be a perfect story. It's got to be a story that makes sense. And then, oh my gosh, how am I going to say it? And then I got to go pay somebody to help me talk about it. And then but what if only 2 people show up? Okay, so that's what happens, right? It's like no one's going to show up for it. Yes, right there.
Well, I mean, wisdom, you are wisdom. Wonderful. That was no wonderful little bit of slip of the tongue, isn't it? A lot of the people I speak to in the Americas, I class Canada and America as Americas, have grown up going through school with doing presentations. Now, if you are shy, you maybe stumbled over your words. You were maybe teased as a result of what you aimed to get out and didn't. You were shut down, you were teased, you were bullied. Hello, internal script, I'm not doing that again. You don't want to put yourself in a position of being rejected. That's a basic human need, because if you go back from an evolutionary perspective, if you said something that was outside the tribe, mores, outside the laws of the tribe, you were literally put out of the tribe, which meant death.
Right. Isolation, death, suffering, the whole thing. That makes so much sense.
That's why it's almost in our DNA not to be too visible. That's being scared of public speaking and death. That's where it comes from.
It's like toe to toe with each other. Even though it doesn't make sense when you verbalize it, internally, oh my gosh, because I think you just opened up a door for me personally. So when I came to the US, because of how my mom came to the US, she didn't know that there was any support in English as a second language because she was recruited by a hospital. And so because of that, there was no support like governmental at the time, right? Like that was enough. So I went in as a kindergartner, not knowing how to speak any, because I was so young. Like my brother was older and he had already had at least 5 years of schooling. And, so he knew what to, I didn't, and I didn't speak an extensive amount of English. And my youthful brain of understanding is 6 years old. That's where it's rooted, because I keep asking myself, like, I'm an extrovert, but why? That just the thought of, if you had asked me, like, let's say you called me one day and said, wonderful, I'd love to get for you on TED Talk, I'd be like, oh, wrong number. But it has nothing to do with my capability of communicating today or comprehensive or anything like that. It has everything to do with that 6-year-old girl who came, and I was just thrown into a classroom without any support of how to communicate with those around me. So I spent that first year just watching people's mouths, and it literally sounded like, wow, wow, wow. I didn't understand. I didn't know. And I sharpened my keen observation skills then to understand what I needed to do. So I passed by the grace of, because first of all, it's kindergarten. You're not really doing any kind of equations, but drawing was enough, right? But first grade, definitely. Like, oh, I had to step it up a notch. So I spent my summer watching Sesame Street. That's how I learned English, Sesame Street.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was a program that was designed at the appropriate language level. And because
Got
you
it.
then saw role models, albeit puppets, you saw role models from different nationalities,
Yeah.
always the one that stuck out.
Yes. But now I'm piecing it together in terms of what you're saying of like, this is why, it's such a difficult, we want it so badly in our gut, but to actually step out in it is just a whole nother, and it doesn't matter how successful you are, how much you've done in life. Public speaking is a threat. Interesting.
What you tell yourself.
Yeah.
If you can flip that script, then you can move forward. You see, my
That's
voice doesn't
good.
matter was actually buried for over 50 years. And I was working with a business coach, and we uncovered that particular script. And she said to me, Wendy, you're still running it. I said, what do you mean? You're working with people to get them onto stage. You're still saying everybody else's voice matters. When are you going to step onto stage yourself?
Wow. So when did that happen for you?
About 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe.
Wow. And so how did that happen?
This is what I'm saying. I've been involved in communication all my life.
Right.
I honestly can speak from experience. The putting yourself out there, and I still am challenged by it, which is one of the reasons that we were talking off camera that I'm coming back to be in the time zone that's more appropriate. That I can take advantage of opportunities and put myself out to an audience that is more likely to listen to me, to be honest, than over where I am at the moment.
Wow.
So I can speak from experience.
Which is to me are the true healers. The true healers of the world are ones who have gone through the healing themselves, right? Today I saw a quote that said, the only way to get over it is through it. And now, having worked with enough entrepreneurs to see in the healing space that the true healers are the ones that have gone through the healing, are continually healing, and simultaneously healing others through their healing. Fascinating. So then, what?
If I can interject for a minute,
Yeah.
to your point about the being perfect. If you're up here and the people you're talking to are down here, forgive. Okay, guys, if you're listening to this, you can't see my hands. One hand is high up, the other hand is low down. So if you are in the upper position and the people you're speaking to are in the lower position, you are too far ahead for there to be much relatability. If you are 2 steps ahead, I can still see you. You've been there. You can bring me along. But
Right.
you're not so far ahead that I can't relate to you, or I don't feel you can relate to me.
Right.
So this is where the wounded soldier carries on. That he
Yes.
says, come on, I'm still going. And if I'm still going, I'm not perfect. But come on,
Right.
come with me. Come with me.
Yes. So now there's a greater need for you, obviously, because what I've learned from my own personal experience currently is being a strategic advisor for business owners, creating their marketing plan. That's always a desire. There's not a single person who has zero desire to be on the stage, because that is sort of the pinnacle of like, this work matters. This work is important. This is the greatest version of my contribution to the world, is to get on a platform that is supporting multiple people, right? So when that is the need to get out there and do that, what do you see as the challenge of why we want this, but don't go for it? And why would we trust you to help us get there? Not just in your experience of, you got major things happening for you. You're credentialed up the yin yang in terms of your knowledge of how to help people use their mouth and their vocals. And you yourself what if that's not enough? You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I know you're the expert, but I can't get myself to do it. What is the thing you would remind us that we can do it and you're the one to help us get to it?
Sure. I'm working with a lady at the moment who's come to me because she's a regional bank manager, and her upline, she was having supervision, and she went, I'm not so good at the speaky bit. And so her upline went, I know somebody who is. The first thing I said to her is, are you prepared to do some mindset stuff? Because we can build on the and even the words, because audience, you may have heard the 7% of what you say is conveyed with your words, 38% with your voice, 55% with your vision. Is it 55? Somewhere, I can't do that. So you can work it out. Anyway, roughly, I'm not ever so good with stats. So I go 10, 40, 50. I can work in round numbers. My point is, if we focus on that part without having looked at what's going on between the ears, it's like putting the roof on the building when the foundations are really shaky.
Right.
It's always going to be a challenge for you.
Yeah.
One of the ladies we had on a TEDx I was doing, professional voice user, used to standing up in front of the High Court, if you will. Absolutely not a problem. There she is, coming on the red circle. I got her on the red circle for dress rehearsal, and she froze. What's going on? I said, because when you are in court, you are presenting a well-prepared brief about somebody else. This is you bearing your soul with your story. So one first thing, it's what is going on between your ears. That really is crucial. And I have a process that I work through, people called Rewire, to recognize what you're saying to yourself, expel, exhale, do a little bit of breath work. Then we wonder if that story could be useful at other times. And I can talk about that in another podcast for you if you like. Then we investigate, well, where did that story come from? Whose voice is it? Is it actually mine? Where did it come from? How can we reframe it, flip it round? And then how do we embrace it? How do we say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to practice, and I'm going to celebrate the fact that I have practiced? Is how many of us do things without celebrating?
Yeah.
So that's where I really come in to start with. I'm going, okay, this is, because I ask people to give me a video of what they're working on. And they're going, okay, stop. let's go inside first. Then we can deal with the externals.
Wow. And what do you say to somebody who's like, okay, like the Tony Robbins thing, right? Let's say somebody's like, okay, this is what I want. This is who I want to be. Like in the next 10 years, I just want to get on stage and then next level stage and then next level stage. I'm going to be on a stage in such a way where TED searches for me, right? The TED searches for you. So in that way, because sometimes we need humbled in terms of like, okay, I'm so good. Have you ever had anybody come to you that they're so overconfident about who they are, but they're being sent to you because whoever is in their support system or their boss or their, somebody that's just like, God, she's good, but if we could take it down a notch, because that's another form. I think that you can have two extremes: ones who don't want to speak it out, and ones who just that's what they want to do, but it's too much. Like, are we working on the same type of parameter of humans from your perspective?
Yes, absolutely. We had one of our TEDx guys who was a young lad. He was 21 and he was talking about memes and he was very enthusiastic. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 6'2", tall, lots of energy. And he did his run through and I went, I'm exhausted. Wow. Can we vary the amount of emotion, the amount of energy in there? Because you will have people turn off. The high energy stuff, again, if you want to use Tony Robbins as a role model, he does the rah, 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 and he brings it down. The lean in, the lean in, there's a roller coaster, there's an emotional side to it. So whenever you're doing a presentation, when we got through I don't need to be high octane the whole time. In fact, that's not what my audience wants.
Yeah.
I take people back to what's your purpose for speaking? What are you getting across? Why is this important to you? Why you? Why this message? Why now? And why to this audience? You need to know who you're speaking to.
Yeah, those are all good questions.
But hello, marketer. This is your niche for absolutely wonderful. Because you need to know who you're speaking to.
Right.
You need to know what they want to know. Because it's always coming from the what's in it for me perspective.
Absolutely. That is the most sellable item in your entire wheelhouse of information and services is what's in it for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had go sidetrack for a second. I had a CEO come to me with 3 weeks before she was presenting before a big pitch fest, if you will. She worked for a not-for-profit and she was pitching in front of financiers. And she came to me wanting to go over her talk. And I said, before you start, what do they want to know? She said, what do you want? You mean, what do I want to tell them? I went, no, what do they want to know? Well, I said, the first thing they want to know is you're a credible risk to their investment.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. That's what you need to lead with. Because, okay, fascinating what you do, but what's in it for them?
Yeah, and that's such a good question to ask, even if you're petrified to speak, because I think that is always the person who's so petrified. It's because, like, what do I want to tell them? And right? And you're trying to figure out how to say all the things without puking it out and without sounding boring and uninteresting and non-relatable subjects. But it is coming from a place of like, what do I want them to know? For sure. Yes, for sure.
If you turn the tables and go, what is it the audience wants to know? How am I serving them?
That's beautiful.
That's where you're coming from. And yes, you want to, I mean, we can get into the tracks of the emotional roller coaster you're taking them on, how you're guiding them through their pain to their gain and all of that wonderful jazz. I mean, there's systems that I've got underneath here as well. The main thing though is, what does your audience want to know? How can you serve them? Which incidentally,
Right.
when you get on podcasts, find out who the audience is, how you can best serve their audience, your host's audience.
Right.
And then you can make the most out of your opportunities.
Look at that little nugget as you're listening in, because I think that is, I think we know that logically, but you forget, and especially in the spaces when you are in the fearful space, right? Of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was asked to be. I'm constantly like, I love everybody I know. I don't care where stage you're in, where you're at, like communicating with you, talking with you, having a conversation is like it's how I get revved up. I thrive on having conversations and swirling ideas and getting to know people. So like I said initially, I thought, look, my husband's listening, yay. Right. And now it's evolved into where I'm at the top 10%, and I'm heard in 27 countries. So it's like amazing. But you're right. Because I didn't go into it with the idea of what I needed. I went into it with the idea of like, how many other women are suffering, like really experiencing what I'm experiencing, and how many other women are on the other side, right? Like you said you started getting on stage 5 years ago. And what makes your services more powerful is because you not just trained in the arena, but you've done it yourself. You have walked the mile that we all wish all our guides and teachers and mentors walked, but not always the truth, but that's okay. And so,
You can have theory you can speak from, but it's like,
yes.
I froze on stage. Did what? Yes, I froze on stage. How did I get back onto out of that?
Yes. Yes. So let me ask you this. What do you think in doing the work that you do now? Because now you're coaching people through the process of what is the truth that has been revealed to you about your journey as you evolve, not as a speaker, not as a coach, but as a business owner? Because that's the new level, right? What do you think the truth has been revealed to you?
Again, it's all around what you say between your ears. Because
Mhm.
when I didn't have the opportunity, as I said, of having a good role model in entrepreneurship. So what I was telling myself was business is hard work. You don't get much return. I also had a wonderful little script about money and figures. That's another story. So when you piece together all these wonderful little stories you tell yourself to keep yourself safe, this is the mind trying to keep you safe and not go outside your comfort zone. I call it a familiar zone, by the way, because sometimes it's not comfortable, but it is familiar. Unconscious mind is doing its level best to keep you safe, which means staying where you are.
Yeah.
Hello out there. It's a big old world. I'm quite literally looking as the sun's coming up out over the water. Anyway, that's another story. What it's taught me in business is if I want to do anything, I need to get out of my familiar zone. I need to flip scripts that I'm telling myself because they are holding me back. They are doing their best to keep me safe. Thank you very much. I appreciate the itty bitty shitty committee trying to keep me safe. And I'm moving on from here. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all my guests, and it's always fascinating to hear where everybody is in this space. But you're walking down the street and wherever you're at, and you walk into a cafe and you see your 25-year-old Wendy. What would you say to 25-year-old Wendy that she would actually listen to?
That's the crucial thing, isn't it? Would she listen?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have done. I can tell you now, the 25, I knew it all.
Right.
And if I thought at 25, 30 plus, 30 nearly years later, I would be on the other side of the world. I would have laughed you out of court. It would have just been forget. No. I think what I would aim to say to my younger self is don't box yourself in. If you are going to stay in that familiar zone, you will always do what you've always done. Audio only audience, I have blinkers on at the moment. I'm describing the fact that if I've got blinkers on, I will always go down the same path. There is a very big wide world out there, metaphorically. And so there is also physically. Open your mind to what's possible.
I love that. Love that. Open your mind to what's possible. I mean, that is not a new concept, but it's so appropriate for this current time and this current space and our conversation. right? Because I think midlife, that's where we kind of box ourselves in, that this is it, that there's no more time, that we're so limited, and that, my gosh, right? We're exasperated. And here you are. And you may have traveled in ways that you didn't expect, right? You didn't expect to go to Australia and then have a terrible experience with the current boss. But it's what happened to keep you there. And then now you're in Malaysia. And then now you're moving on to a different continent of the world after this. And I think that is it right there. Open your mind to what's possible. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we end this conversation, because really that is it. If you're thinking at any moment in your life, like, gosh, I want to speak, or that nudge that you've been feeling in your belly, that fire in the belly of, like, you've only told one person, someday I think I'm going to get on the stage and talk, because I've heard that one too. Or you've been told over and over and over again, like, gosh, you should really get on stage. You should really. I'm just telling you right now, just do what Wendy just said. Open your mind to what is possible. That's it. So with that being said, thank you so much, Wendy, for being here. Thank you for your knowledge, your storytelling, expertise, and the way you're animated, how you describe how your hands are moving for the audience who might not be watching, who are just listening. I really appreciate all the little nuances that only you could bring and have knowledge of in the moment, because we think of it later like, oh, I should have described that. Oh, I should have said that. But it's so natural for you. It's so natural for you to communicate that way. And I appreciate that. Audience, if this is something that you feel like, I got so much out of that, share with people that is maybe that person that I'm talking about that has been told they should be on stage or want to get on stage, that's been speaking to them since they were 15 years old. Who knows? This is how we spread the word. And this is how Wendy is able to travel the world and still find success everywhere she goes, because we live in a smaller space now with technology, and we should take advantage of that. And also, all of Wendy's information, all of her programs, services will be in our show notes. And I highly recommend, because when I'm ready to get on stage, I shall be looking forward to Wendy's programs and services, because if I was already ready, I'd already be doing it. We all need our Sherpas and our guides.
But just a quickie, you'll never be ready.
And when I think I'm ready but never be ready, I'm going to reach out to Wendy. That is for certain. Thank you so much. Thank you for waking up so early on the other side of the world to be here with us today. And yes, we definitely should get on another podcast to talk about all the little areas too that you were talking about there. I love that. Let's stop listening to our itty bitty shitty committee and tell it to shh, and let's open our minds to see what's possible. So thank you again. Thank you. Until next time, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space, and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.